Okay, so today we're looking at Symphonies of Wind Instruments by Igor Stravinsky. I think this work is in the public domain now because the first version was 2020, or sorry, 1920 something. Um, Actually, let me just pull up the Wikipedia while we're at it. This is a pretty famous piece by Stravinsky. It was very influential for me, um, discovering it in my undergrad. It looks like it was written in 1920. And then there's another version. Yeah, it was reorchestrated in 1947, so that version may still be under copyright. Um, this is, I'm assuming, the older version on IMSLP. The original version is for 24 players. It's for three flutes, alto flute, two oboes, English horn, two clarinets, alto clarinet, three bassoons, but the third doubling contra, four horns, three trumpets, three trombones, tuba. So pretty much the wind section of an orchestra. And then the 1947 version is 23 players. There is no alto flute. The alto clarinet part is just on B flat, and those seem to be the only changes. So, oh yeah, and also the third flute doesn't double on piccolo in this other version. So a little bit leaner, easier to program, the second version. You can kind of see it's not a wind band. There's really just one player per part, and it's ordered like the wind and brass sections of an orchestra. Interestingly, there's no percussion, I think, and some wind band scores I see the clarinets below the bassoons or weird things like that. This one is just orchestra order, and obviously there's no saxophones. So yeah, it's dedicated to Claude Debussy in memoriam. I guess Debussy died around 1920. Yeah, he died in 1918. So goes to show how old this piece is. It's about 9 minutes long. Even though it's quite old, I think it sounds pretty modern. It's very Stravinskyan. It pushes a lot of these instruments into their extreme registers. And I think one of the more interesting things about its conception and writing is it's literally a collage piece. So Stravinsky wrote many small passages of music which could link together in various ways, and then he literally cut them out and collaged them on, I guess, a wall of his apartment or something. That is completely anecdotal. I heard that from a composition professor in my undergrad, so if I'm wrong, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it is literally a collage piece. So it's not an essay in symphonic form, rather, he uses the word symphonies to mean sounding together. It draws from Russian folk elements, and it's constructed of contrasting episodes. It concludes with a chorale, which was the first thing he wrote, actually, when starting this piece, and that chorale was originally published in La Revue Musicale as a standalone piece. It was called Tombeau to Claude Debussy. That's what the chorale was called. I can show you where it is in the score. It's this thing in mostly half notes, pretty sure. Yeah, there it comes back again on page the one. Yeah, there's like 7 pages of it at the end here. Another thing, when I was studying this and I brought it in to talk about it in a composition lesson, my teacher said that you shouldn't try to copy this. I think he assigned it. So I was talking about it, and he's like, "Yeah, you shouldn't try to copy any of this orchestration because It's Stravinsky, and Stravinsky's orchestration only really works for the type of music he's writing. It's you can't just use it. So I thought that was kind of funny. Um, Maybe it's good advice. Just so you're aware, that's kind of um, the aura of this piece. Like it's very, very extreme. Like it starts with this super high clarinet stuff, and it has a reputation of that, like the of just having this very weird scoring that not a lot of pieces have. Apparently, when the work was premiered in the 1920s, it was met with laughter and derision from the audience. Yeah, link to a recording is in the video description. I'll try to make sure this recording is the 1920 version. Okay, yeah, so this was a trip down memory lane. I'm kind of surprised by some of the tempi that Boulez took. Some of the moments in this felt very slow, and I noticed there's an extra like 40 seconds of music here. The chorale sounds really good, though. I like the tempo of that. Um, my only comments really are the form is really interesting. When I was a lot younger, I actually reduced the score, and then I think I had a bunch of different colored pencil crayons, and I categorized all the different sections, and that was very educational for me, informative. It's a really beautiful little formal exercise. I don't know if I would need to do that nowadays though, but yeah, there's a lot of things going on. The chorale itself is kind of collage, like it has these different subsections, and maybe that inspired Stravinsky to expand it in the same way. I think it's kind of interesting that you get snippets of the chorale at the beginning, and then it kind of goes away, and you explore more up tempo um, ideas. And then the brass has a big moment, of course, around the climax of the piece. I noticed there's a bunch of program notes here, none of them by the composer, of course. Maybe I can find something interesting in here. So this one talks about his relationship to Debussy. Despite friendly correspondences through the years leading up to Debussy's death, this is between Stravinsky and Debussy. There's evidence that the elder composer, Debussy, was envious of how Stravinsky's shocking early ballet scores had made him the toast of Paris, potentially eclipsing Debussy's fame in the process. On the other hand, in a 1916 letter to a friend, Debussy called Stravinsky a spoiled child, a young man who wears flashy ties and treads on women's toes as he kisses their hands. As an old man, he'll be insupportable. Okay. The piece strikes the listener as singular for several reasons. The use of the word symphonies for a 10-minute single movement piece seems odd until we think back to the classical meaning. The lack of strings was odd for a piece titled Symphonies. Some have pointed to Stravinsky's shunning of the lush romantic qualities of string instruments, others to post-war economic woes that made works written for smaller forces more likely to earn a performance. The sonority of this piece is so strikingly perfect to its content that one can't imagine any other setting. Talks about it possibly being pastoral. Symphonies of Wind Instruments was completed in 1920 and is an odd piece in the oeuvre of Igor Stravinsky. The first sketches of it appear between 1918 and 1919, after the death of Debussy. While other composers had written pieces in imitation of Debussy's impressionistic style, Stravinsky wrote an austere chorale, which is, of course, the ending of this. I should have mentioned this before, but yeah, the 1920 version was premiered by the famous conductor of the Boston Symphony Orchestra, Serge Koussevitzky. Stravinsky was not happy with the performance, and it is one of the reasons why he began to conduct his own music. Okay, this one similarly starts with talking about the revue musicale um, chorale, and then they talk about the title, how it shouldn't be called symphonies, why is it called symphonies, And then the third paragraph talks about his 1947 revision of the piece. Okay. This one starts a bit dramatic. Igor Stravinsky was forced to take refuge from the war in Switzerland from 1914 to 1920. During this period, his isolation from his resources in Russia compelled him to write music for reduced instrumentation, perhaps culminating in L'Histoire de Soldat, 1918. This period also saw the death of his friend Debussy during one of the darkest times of the entire war. The single movement Symphonies was composed during the summer of 1920 and premiered in London in 1921 under the baton of Serge Koussevitzky. It develops material from his three pieces for string quartet, which we've covered on the channel, The Wedding, parts of L'Histoire, and the Russian popular material from his numerous vocal compositions, particularly the songs he composed during his Swiss exile. So this seems to hammer home this idea that it is like a hodgepodge of things, a collage of ideas. And then it has some words from Stravinsky about the piece. So why don't I read that? It lacks all those elements that infallibly appeal to the ordinary listener, uh, or to which he is accustomed. It is futile to look in it for passionate impulse or dynamic brilliance. It is an austere ritual, which is unfolded in terms of short litanies between different groups of homogeneous instruments. This music is not meant to please an audience nor its passions. Nevertheless, I had hoped that it would appeal to some of those persons in whom a purely musical receptivity outweighed the desire to satisfy their sentimental cravings. So, there you go. Uh, my thoughts on this wind ensemble slash wind band series. It's kind of just scraping things together, I think. But a lot of these pieces are really good. Um, yeah, maybe I wasn't really getting into wind band culture so much, and more just looking at the big composers who have and what they decided to write for this ensemble. Um, why don't we spin the wheel? We'll see what's up next. Okay, this might be an interesting one. Flute and piano. Let me make sure I have three scores at least that would work. Yeah, these would both probably work, and I know that the Jonathan Harvey would work. And then maybe there's a alto flute and piano up here or something. Yeah, this probably has a recording, so I think we're good. That's gonna be up next. Not long ago we did a solo flute series, so this will be a nice small addition to that. Um, I don't know if I have it up here, but it seems like I have a lot of flute, cello, piano. So maybe that'll be one to add to the list eventually. Although I don't think I have enough recordings. But so yeah, we'll commit to this and I'll add flute, cello, piano.